All right, I'm having a little trouble with the projector. How many of you all have class tomorrow night at 5:30? Well, the event is from 5:30 to 6:30. A couple of you. Okay, so well, tomorrow night I want to show this on the screen, but I'm struggling. Any of you familiar with an organization called Ashoka? Ashoka. They do social entrepreneurship, which is sort of a new. Something's happening up there. I apologize. I don't know what to deal with. The social entrepreneurship is a relatively emergent field. Essentially, it's a way of creating businesses that are. Geez, I should probably try and define it better. Changing solutions for the world's most urgent social problems. So if any of you are familiar with, for example, what Tom's shoes, you know, where you buy a pair of shoes, they give another one. That's a good example of social entrepreneurship. Anyway, the founder of Ashoka, Bill Drayton, is speaking tomorrow night at Tulane. It's room 213, which has any of you been to the dining facilities over at Tulane where they've got the Taco Bell and all that stuff? You know what I'm talking about? Upstairs, okay? And if you all can go and write up a little page, 500 words, type up a little 500 word kind of summary of how Ashoka's work relates to ethics, which is what we're talking about. Started yesterday, talking about today as well, and I'll give you a couple points, extra credit points on the test. Those of you that can't go and have a genuine conflict, and this is why I asked that question first, and I made note of who raised their hand. You can come see me, and we'll figure some other alternative solution out if you want those points, but there should be no more than 3 or 4 of you that actually have that issue. So totally up to you. Don't have to go. I will tell you that I hope you go just because it's an interesting field. It's at the nexus of nonprofits and for-profits. These are for-profit businesses that they're building. But there's an awful lot of kind of creative thought going on. And I think, my sense is that music, the arts, it's going to be a big part of these social entrepreneurial ventures as we move forward. But if that's not compelling enough, and look, the job market out there isn't great, so the more you can kind of put on your, Thank you. So the more that you, the more you can do in terms of positioning yourself for a job, the better, obviously. And it's a fascinating field. Anybody seem interested in that? Will I see any of you all over there tomorrow night? I'm hoping to be there myself. Good. I hope we see quite a few of you. And if all of the virtuous reasons for going aren't enough, the way these tests work, and I believe we got one coming up. Does anybody have a syllabus? When is our first test? I'm sorry? Next Wednesday? Yeah. So we got one coming up. What I do is, I think I've mentioned this before, there are 25 questions, 4 points each, multiple choice. So, you don't have to miss many to kind of be knocked from an A to a B or a B to a C. So getting a couple points, and I'll probably do 2, 3 points or whatever if you show up and write something halfway intelligible, can be the difference. All right, when they get down here, I'll pull the thing up. And if I remember, I'll post it to Blackboard also. Or Alex, maybe you can post it to Blackboard. We'll post it to Blackboard. Who watched the Grammys last night? Sucked. Somebody's bitter. Jealous. What? I'm looking at the PC. Right. Give it a shot. Dylan, what's the music industry's new internet problem?
Trying to find out how to make money off of streaming music from Pandora and all that.
How's that going?
It's kind of new now, so they don't really know if it's more promotional or
Is anybody making money?
Pandora.
Pandora's making money. They claim to be profitable. Yeah, I mean we've got this model now where it used to be, what do we call Pandora's model? Talked about this, right? Somebody said it? Freemium, very good. What does that mean? Who said it? What does that mean? What's freemium? Probably not a freemium. A freemium model. So bait, yes. Could we say that life is a freemium model? I think so too. Might be a good test question. True or false? Life is a freemium business model. UK pop sale for Haiti raises 80 grand, huh, Carter? How'd this happen?
Well, I believe it's a company called Oxfam, based in the UK.
Oxfam.
Oxfam.
Yeah, no R.
It's one of several other
You got that to work. See, those are one of those things that I pay not to have Coldplay's frontman's jacket, right? Just me, you know. Though people like Coldplay.
But yeah, it's definitely has to do with the social entrepreneurship.
Very good. One thing, Carter, that I liked about you know, the way that money was raised for Haiti was, you know, dial, text, blah, 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 $10 go right in. Why can't we do something like that for school teachers? No, not me. I'm doing fine. But elementary teachers, middle school teachers, that type of thing, right? I mean, why can't we start, what do we call these things that stand between us and a purchase? Carter. What would you guess? If you wanted to donate pre this idea of kind of texting somewhere, how might you do that? Subscribe to something. What else might you do if you wanted to donate some money to someone? Write a check, and then once you wrote that check, what would you do? Put it in mail, right? Put it in an envelope and send it, right? So all these steps, right? Call them transaction costs. It's a good word for you guys to know. Good phrase. Transaction cost can be seen as any step between you and that thing you want to do, right? So for instance, if you are selling a CD on your site and somebody comes to your site and they want to buy a little button and they click it for PayPal, what happens? They get charged, right? That's a transaction cost. It essentially raises the true price of a transaction, right? Where you thought you were buying a download for, you thought you were selling a download for 99 cents. In point of fact, you're not, are you? You're actually maybe, if they're buying right from your site, maybe getting 90 cents or something once PayPal takes their percentage. And that transaction cost can be so high sometimes that you go, it's not worth it, which is often the case. You want to sell a download or a stream for 10 cents, but your transaction cost is 9 cents. You don't do it, right? You want to, now there's another cost involved in economic terms. What's the cost of having to take that check, put it in an envelope, and walk down to the post office? What do we call that in economics? Opportunity cost. What does that mean? What's opportunity cost? Could have been doing something else, right? Opportunity cost is a big, important term. Right? Opportunity cost means that when you do one thing, you can't do something else. Now, we can all multitask, but there's time. And time becomes a transaction cost too. You've all been on websites where you want to buy something, but what stands between your purchase? Not monetarily. Time in the form of what? What keeps you from buying sometimes on a website? Not costs. Oh, shipping time. No. You got to what? Thank you. You got to fill out a form. You got to do X, Y, and Z, right? You got all these barriers. You've all been on websites, right? Where by the time you finally get to the purchase, you've given your zip code, you've done all these things. These are transaction costs too. And they keep people from doing stuff. There's a tremendous amount of what we call breakage in the industry, where people go to a website, they shop for something, but they then don't complete the transaction. Now, sometimes that's price, but sometimes it's this idea that, you know what? I'm on this site, you're asking me to fill this, that, or the other thing out. Now you want me to take a survey? Really? Has any of you hit these things? Do you have 3 minutes to take a survey? Right? And we all know they're lying. These surveys never take 3 minutes, okay? And how many of us actually click through those surveys? Hardly ever. But how many people will see that little pop-up window and go, not only do I not have time to take your survey, I'm not completing my transaction, goodbye. Right? So a big part of the commerce that we have to deal with today, and it's why I brought up this point, Dylan, is if we can make it so simple that, you know what? I just heard about some teacher that inspired me. And you know what sucks? The teachers in elementary schools and middle schools and high school make no money, but I can text 99 teacher and bam, $10 comes out of my account. Do you really think that's not going to have an impact? Of course it's going to have an impact. And where will that come from? Where will that do? Who leads that type of stuff? Right? How does that stuff happen? Right? Could any of you set that up? It starts from, you know, people. This Haiti thing was important because I'm not the only one thinking this, right? Other people are thinking, why don't we use that type of methodology and apply it to other stuff, right? Could we do that? Did anybody do that during Katrina? Does anybody remember text blah, 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 give $10 to Katrina? Right? Maybe it happened. I don't think so. What also happened during the Haiti tragedy with regards to some of these people that we just assume we should give money to? Right? I won't mention any specific names. But there are a lot of firms out there that just historically we've said, if you've got money to donate, you give it to these people. What happened? A lot of fraud, but you know, it's fraud. What else? Well, you started to see, I mean, I'm fond of saying that the internet shines a bright light on mediocrity. What does that mean? Way in the back. The internet makes you settle for things? I asked the phrase, internet shines a bright light on mediocrity. What does that mean?
Well, the internet gives out a lot of information to people.
It's hard to lie on the internet, right? Eventually, at a certain point, you're going to get caught, okay? Now, there's certainly a lot of false information out there, too, and the internet accelerates that. But when you start seeing that there's all this information out there, you start seeing substitutes, you start seeing alternatives. And all of these companies that at one point had something of a competitive advantage don't anymore because the information is out there. And so when you start thinking about, you know what, I can give my money directly to this place and see where it's going, people do what? What do they do? In the back, what do they do? What do they do when they see that they know exactly where their money's going to go and they make it easy to do? What do people do? They'll give more, right? We eliminate transaction costs, we eliminate opportunity cost as much as we can, and we increase transparency. All of a sudden you have something. And these are the tenets, right? This is how you have to do business today. Eliminate transaction costs, eliminate opportunity cost, increase transparency. You guys are mostly music business people. How could we do that? Go ahead.
Well, it's kind of like in this day and age, we need to have a certain level of personability. Websites and companies, artists as well. We need to have a certain level of transparency and personability so people want to use their stuff instead of just all these block days. You know, you're not really connected to anyone. You know, what are you doing? Are you out there for me? Are you out there for yourself?
One of the big arguments, rightly or wrongly, about piracy was that, you know what, I'm not really stealing from the artist, right? Who am I stealing from? The label. And how do we feel about the labels? What are they doing? Stealing from the artist. So two wrongs make a right, right? But when you eliminate that and you get it to a place where you feel like you're giving directly to the artist, it changes that dynamic a little bit. Some of you have felt this, right? And it's what artists have to do, and it's what organizations have to do. If you feel that the Red Cross or whatever is an intermediary between what you're giving and it doing good work, and you can get around them, you'll get around them. What? What? Well, my problem is I've got another class in here at 6:20, so I need to have something. Is this right, Wade? Where's Wade? What's your article?
The U.S. Air Force ordered over 1,700 PS3s to make a supercomputer.
PlayStations. I find that really hard to believe. They're going to connect 2,000 PlayStation 3s to create a supercomputer. They will be attempting to simulate the way the human brain processes information and how it recognizes content images. Something computers absolutely suck at, says Wade. And their choice was PlayStations.
Yeah, it's 95% more efficient because instead of having an entire supercomputer running at a time, when they're not using hard, they can shut off all the consoles that they want.
Now, I'm cool with this cluster that they've. It's just why not a Mac Mini or something like, why a PlayStation? Because they can also play Doom when they're not, whatever. Who will benefit from Toyota's woes, Spencer? Spencer? Hi, Spencer. Who will benefit from Toyota's woes? All of their competitors. I can't hear you. Can't. Yes.
Maybe American car companies, because it's shown that the quality of American cars had GM before that quality.
Oh.
Here's Toyota going,
It's interesting, right? I mean, Toyota's been this always leads in quality, right? And now apparently with the recalls, maybe they don't. Yeah. The acoustics in here are hard to believe how bad they are. Go ahead. Is that right? So brands. What's a brand? Don't give me an example of a brand. Give me a definition of a brand. Define brand for me. Yeah. Oh, look at you go. A name that somebody can trust. That's exactly right. Or not trust. So I would say, and you stole my thunder by getting it right so fast. Well done. I would say that brands are defined by trust. And the moment the trust goes away, the brand goes away. So let's think it through a little bit. Used to be, before you all were born, when I was a little kid, if you wanted the best TV, what would you buy? Think back to when you were little. Think back to before you were born. What would you buy? Huh? Sony. Sony, right? Everyone would go, oh, Sony makes the best TV, right? They had, and we talked about this before, brand equity, right? They had all this kind of goodwill associated with this idea that Sony makes a superior TV, and when you have that brand equity, what can you do? It's the price, right? People are paying for all of the elements associated with the brand equity. Now, along comes Amazon, okay? And when you go to buy something from Amazon, what's the first thing you look at? Sorry? Reviews. From whom? Other users. And why do these people write these reviews? What do they get out of it? Nothing, right? They do it because they feel they're playing a part in a virtuous kind of endeavor. Some people probably are a little egomaniacal and just like to see their name on it. But for the most part, you write something. And why do we write stuff? Well, we've talked about this a little bit. When do you write? Adamant. Adamant which way? Good or bad, exactly. When don't you write? When it just meets your expectations. What I'm going for is something exceeds or fails short of your expectations, you write. If it meets your expectations, you don't write. And this is borne out by, what would you call how many stars would a review that meets your expectation give you? That meets your expectations? 2.5 to 3, right? Because that's what? Average, right? 1 star or 0 stars. 4 or 5 stars, right? But what we really want is 5, right? Even 4 we get a little suspicious, right? In any case, Amazon comes along, they open this up, and all of a sudden, people go and say, oh, I'm going to get my Sony, I'm going to get it from Amazon. They scroll down like we all do to customer reviews, and what do they start seeing? They start seeing reviews that are in that 3-star range maybe, but what are these reviewers saying? You can get a cheaper TV, a cheaper TV that's the same quality. The problem is you've never heard of this brand, right? And yet, over time, people start to believe these reviews. Sony's brand equity starts to go down. These other companies start to go up. But what really happens is the whole idea of brand starts to dissipate. And that's happened over the last 5 or 10 years. It used to be we would buy stuff because of the brand. People would only buy Nike shoes. People would only buy Sony TVs. People would only buy GM cars because we didn't have information. Going back to what we were talking about before, the internet shines a bright light on mediocrity, right? So we start to get these substitutes, and the brand only means trust. The brand means that if I buy something from you, if you rip me off, I'm going to tell people, and your brand equity goes away. And you have no brand. Does it happen in music? Give me an example. Give me an example. Yeah. Jewel. How so? Poor Jewel. Because you kind of didn't trust her anymore, right? you not only didn't trust what she had become post plastic surgery, but you questioned whether or not she was real before that, right? Labels too, right? When I was running the label that I ran, I'd say to my the board members all the time, I have one job and one job only: protect the brand. So if you push me to put out crap, it's going to hurt the brand. And that's a good segue to this. I don't know if I have enough. It looks like I might. I don't know what my man did here either. He gave up. Well, okay, see you guys later. Go get a snack. Delicious beverage or something? I'm sorry? There's only one page. Oh, you've got my original, I guess. Thank you. Is that? Yeah, okay. He did leave me with a computer, which I guess I can connect 1,000 or so of them and make my supercomputer. Pass those things back because it's going to take you a few minutes to read them. Here, does this take it forever? Where are these things? Somebody give me a stack. Give me a stack of them. Thanks. Pass them forward. Hey. Yeah, my problem is I got a 3-hour class tonight from 6:20 to 9. Does anybody need, has everybody got them? Uh-huh.
It's not something that I can fix. We can set up a smaller projector in here for the next class.
That'd be great.
So it's, what's the time?
6:20 to 9.
We'll do that. What time is the class?
This class ends at 4:45.
What's the break between the 6:20 and the one between 4:45 and 6:20?
I don't know if anybody's in here between the two.
Okay, we'll be back in probably 10 after.
10 after,
Think about 5 minutes.
10 after 6?
Yeah.
Okay, if I'm not here, I'll be down shortly there.
Okay.
The door should be open. So. And so you'll just leave me, what, a connector and a projector or something?
We'll have this laptop for you and a projector.
I don't, okay, yeah, just do that because I don't want, I've got a Mac and I don't want to screw with that. And I'll be able to get online and stuff in here too.
Yeah, we'll connect you to the wireless.
All right, thanks a lot.
Yeah, no problem. Sorry about that. We'll have this next one.
Good, thank you. Look up at me if you're done. Okay, if you're not, take your time. All right. So thoughts. Anybody want to start the conversation off? Yeah, in the back.
Mississippi, the monetary push, they're looking at, they don't think they're reacting well.
Can't hear you. Go ahead.
They say they're not reacting well to the song.
Yep.
And that they need a monetary push.
Yeah.
The first thing that came to my mind is that, are they, is it really, are they not reacting well to the song, or are they just saying that in order to get this monetary push? Because, it would seem to me if this was a person who, just an example, like I would use like something like Mariah Carey.
Uh-huh.
Like a few years ago, she had been putting out any records.
Talk real loud.
Okay, a few years ago, she had been putting out any records, and then she came back and
Watch your
had
foot.
a really nice album after a long time.
Right.
The majority of the $10,000, they get that in a day from one radio, from one commercial. So my thing would be, if it's a good song and they feel like they can sell to advertisers that, they would do it. So I'm guessing, my question would be, is it really about the song, or is it about the fact that they see that this company is desperate and they just really want to get money?
Okay, good. You bring up an important point. You get into these unethical situations, what governs them? What rules? What laws? What? Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't, obviously I don't have my thing. Yeah, I can if somebody wants to help me, because I'm pretty sure that I will drop it on someone's head trying to get it up here myself. So someone, you look like a strapping young man. Come help me get this thing up here. No, you're all right. You're all right. Oh, yeah, thank you. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. So, we talked early on in the semester about what? The blank of blank that gives us the rule of law, right? We have a rule of law. No person's above that rule of law. You go outside the law, right? You get into some sort of unethical, potentially unethical thing. Somebody, maybe they're just saying we need the money. Maybe they're lying. You get in an unethical environment, it's very, very hard to police that type of stuff. It tends to get policed how? Right? outside the law. You know, you can't sue somebody, you can't send them to prison, so violence tends to be the way these things are policed. All right, somebody else weigh in. Yeah? What?
That recommendation not reacting strongly is that it labels responsibility to research stations that do react strongly.
Uh-huh. Say it again. I was busy being distracted by New Orleans Saints here texting.
Isn't it the label's responsibility to research stations that do react strongly? You know, like market research.
Oh, sure. But one thing that is important there's internal and external ethics, right? And internal ethics means the ethics of a specific situation. In radio world or record label world at this level, commercial radio, all the stations are doing this, okay? And this is also to your point in the back, they're all doing it. So when you say research one where it'll do better, they're all not going to play it unless you pay them, okay? Some non-commercial stations might play it a little bit, but for the most part, they ain't going to play it unless you pay them. And so it's not so much that they even view it as unethical, illegal, or whatever. It's just the internal ethics of the situation. Who's from Latin America here? Okay. So if I want to do business down there, what do I have to do to get in? Go talk to somebody. Who? Somebody in the government. What do I got to say? And what do I have to do? And do what else? What goes along with those papers? My information and what else? Bribe, right? Not in all countries, but the culture, the internal ethic of a lot of Latin, and I'm generalizing, but of a lot of Latin American economies is you got to pay to play. You want to dock your boat here and unload the cargo? Fine. There's a tax here, a tax there, and these taxes are bribed. It's the internal ethic of that world. Now, it's a problem, as we'll see when we get into globalization, because investors and everybody else, just like we talked about at the top of this class, those bribes are what? In the same way that paying a PayPal thing, what do we call that? Transaction cost. So if you got to go to Latin America to get business down there and pay a bribe, that's a transaction cost. What would you logically do? Go elsewhere. Same thing with radio. This payola is simply a transaction cost. It's a cost of doing business. Now, this hypothetical, this case study, was written several years ago. You couldn't go anywhere else. Satellite radio was just kind of starting, and there was no internet radio. Okay? What else? Yep. Again, the internal ethic is they're going to go, yes, it's great, but if you want it played, you got to pay. We don't care what song it is. Look, haven't you ever wondered how these horrible songs get on the radio? All right? I mean, do you really think the songs that are getting played on the radio are getting played on the radio because of their merit? Have you heard the Black Eyed Peas? Right? You really think that's because they write? I mean, did you see the Grammys last night? I mean, I'm not going to, taste is taste, but I don't think anybody can make the argument that the vast majority of those artists are not going to stand the test of time, right? They may be kind of popular for 6 months, a year, maybe a couple years. Black Eyed Peas have been doing it a long time. Apparently people like them, right? But if you compare that to a lot of other stuff, it's not quality stuff. I mean, it's just not. Sorry, You can disagree with me if you want, but it's not. That Beyonce song is a great song. That will stand the test of time, the Single Ladies one. But that other song she performed was horrible. It's just horrible, right? And it had an Alanis Morissette. It was like, what? You've taken one bad song and put another bad song in the middle of it? Sorry, I promise not to talk about my musical taste. In any case, but my point is, it really ain't about. I mean, every once in a while there will be a song, Beck's Loser, Never, Smells Like Teen Spirit, keep them separated. Every once in a while, there will be a song that is so deniably great that it gets around all this crap. But it's once in a blue moon. David Gray, when he had that huge hit when you were little kids. I can't think of a recent one. Can anybody? What's, huh? Thong song? No. Vampire Weekend, but they haven't yet exploded. If Vampire Weekend is going to explode in the way that Smells Like Teen Spirit did, it's going to be a pile of money behind it. Okay, who would pay, out of curiosity? Why would you pay?
Well, the way that I see it is that the record company's paying all this money anyway. The only like ethical issue with it is that it's against the law, I guess. Because you're saying like this is the only way in which we can get this on the radio, right? They have to.
Well, I like the way that you said the only ethical issue is just it's against the law, right?
Well, I would say that as a like you have more of an ethical obligation to like your employees and things like the company rather than to the law because it's obvious that people get away with this and it happens all the time. And so, but I don't think you can get away with like letting your company down or letting down what you were the task you were assigned to do. And so
It's a good example of the difference between morals or ethics and law. Okay, law is the repository for our ethics, but certainly cannot encapsulate it all. So you're in this situation where, because of the internal ethic, look, if I don't do this, I'm at a disadvantage to my competitors, right? And that's where we get into kind of free market stuff. When you start playing unethically, right, you start de-leveling, if that's a word, the playing field, okay? This is why insider trading is illegal, right? You can't have more information than somebody else. Now, we know, as a point of fact, that we all the time do, right? That's competitive advantage to a degree. Who else would pay? Why? Same reasons?
Basically, she said the only thing on that side is the only thing is against the law.
Well, no.
You put on the other side, like you're helping all your employees. You're most importantly saving the business and yourself. Like you just have to.
Just have to. Well, let's not. I don't know that I'm so. I don't know that I agree. I mean, I hear what you're saying. I don't know that I agree that the only thing on the not pay side is the law.
Well, it's not the only thing, but it certainly seems like there's many other things on the positive side.
Okay, good, good. Oops. This is why I don't usually write on the board, because I write like a, insane person. This is what, you'll see scrawled in blood on a convicted murderer's cell. And I'm writing words that I didn't mean to, just writing the word law. So, one second. Do what causes the least amount of harm / the most amount of good. And this is roughly utilitarianism. John Stuart Mill, the idea that there is a choice that will result in more good or less bad for more people. And that's kind of what you're proposing when you said, on balance, against the law, maybe some other things, but they're far more, it will cause a whole lot more harm to not pay this, right? Yeah.
I was going to say, I know you said that Loyola is common practice, but assuming that it's not, just for this example, by paying the radio station, you may be benefiting your own employees, but say that there was another single party for the same spot, you may be taking that person, and they may deserve it with you, and you're taking away the people.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's an excellent point. So when you get into this unethical thing, One unethical act begets another. Okay? And this relates to this kind of where are the rules, right? Yeah?
Another thing, I know on the first page, it stated that the company had carved out a niche, by not being that label that, did these types of things. And it also stated that, a lot of the other labels that did partake in these types of practices, they had big turnover at the labels and things like that. So,
Excellent.
I mean, if you had a niche doing the opposite, why would you become a cookie cutter like the rest of the labels?
There is a business value in acting ethically, all right? I want to go back to the other gentleman's point in a second, but that company was able to attract employees that really didn't want to get into a place where the internal ethic was this type of thing. There are plenty of people, I'm standing in front of a lot of them, that really don't want to go into the music business to lie and to cheat. They want to go into the music business because they love music, they love making art, and they want to help artists succeed, right? They don't want to go into the music business so they can, and I know people that do, okay? I'm not saying we're all little, virtuous human beings. I think most of us are. But I know certain people that have just seemingly been born to lie and steal and cheat, right? Happens, okay? But for the most part, people don't. And when they look for something that doesn't do that, right? And I chose this word carefully, and it's value, not valve. The values align. And that becomes a competitive advantage with regards to not only attraction of employees, but retention, right? Now stick around. But back to your point for a minute. So you're taking kind of, and I like this approach very much, taking it out a step. If we do this, if we pay the payola, we are perpetuating a system that we know is flawed, right? And therefore, somebody that, as you say, is more deserving is being harmed down the road from what we do, which only further perpetuates that system, because if they're harmed once, what are they going to do the next time they go around? Sorry? The other artists that didn't get the spot because you paid, what are they going to do? They're going to pay because they're going to see the internal ethic. So we build this system that gets increasingly corrupt, right? So we call this, by the way, what? When you've got no good alternative. What's the term? It's going to be on the test. Sorry? What did you call it? SOL? No. Ethical dilemma. Okay? It's one you want to know. An ethical dilemma is when you're faced with a situation where any action you take is going to do some amount of harm. Okay? And so, can I erase this, by the way? Has everybody got this? So one thing that can be done, and we've started with the most complex one, but you brought it up, is to do nothing when you're faced with an ethical dilemma. Now what that means, it's hard to kind of reconcile that with this situation. You kind of got to do something. You could stall, right? But by doing nothing and letting the system, sort of remove yourself, and letting the system perpetuate on its own, what inevitably happens if we believe in kind of free markets at all? If you get out, the system just keeps going, payola keeps going, what happens eventually, given what you said? It'll fix itself, but more likely before it fixes itself, what happens? No. It collapses. And you see this in radio today. Okay? The good thing about this case study being several years old is that exactly what should have happened has happened. Terrestrial radio has essentially eaten itself, right? All of the payola led to what? It led to all of this stuff on the radio that we don't like. So what do? We stop listening. You stop listening, the ad dollars do what? The ad dollars go down. The amount of money they can pay, right, goes down. Everything starts to collapse. Now, this only stopped working when what started to emerge? What's the economic term? Start using real business terms. Substitutes, right? Up until really 2 or 3 years ago, there wasn't a good substitute. Yes, there was XM and satellite, but it didn't really catch on. Why didn't it really catch on? They operated the same way, largely. Yes, there was more channels, but it was essentially the same thing. And if you wanted placement, there was lots of deals going on, and it's why they're falling apart too. The true substitute really is this, right? The iPod. The true substitute was, you know what? I can get in my car, I'm going to plug my iPod in, and I'll listen to my own songs, right? And now, as internet radio, you know, the new 2011 cars, I believe they're GM cars, are going to have Pandora in them, right? What's that going to do to satellite radio? Goodbye, right? Now you can have Pandora right there. Those are much more accurate substitutes. Internet radio starts to become a substitute. And so by doing nothing, the system starts to kind of collapse on itself. Now look, I'm going to veer into sort of Austrian economic theory here for 1 second. Believe it, don't believe it, or whatever. There's a lot of studies out there that show any time the government intervenes to stop these types of things, we get the opposite of the intended action, right? Intended consequence. So the government comes in, and I can tell you this is true of radio. Government comes in and says, okay, we're going to make a bunch of rules and regulations banning payola. Okay? And what happens is it just exacerbates the system. People just start looking around for alternatives, new methods pop up, right? And all of the tax dollars and all of the money spent, it would have been way better off for the government to go, you know what, guys? This is the way you want your industry to be? Go ahead, see how it works out for you, right? But instead, we try and regulate it. It doesn't work. Okay, so one thing you can do nothing. Remove yourself. Now, I will add to this. If you do this, you have a sort of ethical responsibility to shine a light, right? And this gets into whistleblowing. It gets into the idea that you got to talk about it, right? Have you heard the expression, sunlight is the best disinfectant? What does that mean? You got a cut on your arm, let the sun shine on it, right? It'll kill all the germs, right? These ethical things exist underneath, right? In this sort of sub rosa, this underground situation where you start shining light on it. It's like when you turn over a rock, all little bugs start scurrying away. Again, the internet shines a bright light on mediocrity. This is the height of mediocrity. Who's seen The Godfather? The beginning scene, the wedding scene, who comes to see The Godfather?
It's the guy asking for a favor.
What was that guy's name?
Wasn't it Luca?
No, not Luca Brasi. Who comes to see him? Huh? What? No. The guy's name was Amerigo Buonasera. What does that mean, you Italians? Amerigo Buonasera. Excuse my accent. What? No. America, good night. Okay? And he comes and he asks the Godfather for what? Go ahead, redeem yourself.
He could have the guy killed.
Okay, he wants to have a guy taken care of. Why?
Because I haven't seen him in a while, but something to do with his son.
Daughter.
Yeah. He died with his daughter or something.
The daughter was raped. So this guy, America Buonasera, comes to the Godfather on his wedding day and says, Godfather, you gotta help me, right? And the Godfather says what?
He says to help him, but in the future he might have to do away with it.
Very good. But before he gets to that, what does he say? You've never come to me before, right? And why? Why had the guy never come to him before? No? Why hadn't he come to him before?
He wanted to believe that America would take care of him.
He wanted to believe that the American system would take care of him, right? And so what does the Godfather say with respect to that?
So well, then they did take care of it and you lost. You should've
No, 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 no. What does the Godfather say?
He said, if you come to me, your enemies would fear you.
No, he said, did you go to the police, right? Why didn't you go to the police? Why don't you go to this system that you've bought into, right?
He did it.
And he did. And what does he say?
They screwed him over.
He said that the police didn't work. That system failed me, right? So now what's he resorted to doing?
The mob.
Going back to what system? The underground Italian system, the mafia system, right? That came out of where? Italy, obviously, but what system in Italy? Yeah, sort of fascism. That's good. That's a good answer. Go ahead. And why did they exist? The government was corrupt and they had no access to protection. So they formed their own system, right? Now, in the U.S. system, so-called rule of law, that we go to the police, we pay our tax dollars, the police take care of us. If the system fails us, what do? We're supposed to sue, right? We're supposed, but that doesn't do you any good. Doesn't do you any good when your daughter's been raped, right? So this guy comes to the Godfather on his wedding day and says, Godfather, you got to help me. My system failed. America Buenos Aires, right? America, good night. My system failed. And then the Godfather says, well, wait a second. You've never come to see me before, meaning you left me behind and you went to this new America thing, and now you come back to me, ask me for a favor on my daughter's wedding day, right? This is what he says. And he says just what you said. What?
I'll do you this favor if you do me a favor in the future.
Does he say what that favor is?
No, he says I might not even fall on your side.
I'll take care of it, but there may be a day that comes when I ask you for a favor too. And what does that mean, really? What does that mean? What is the Godfather's relationship to this guy now? He owns him. The Godfather owns him. This guy no longer is an autonomous person that is existing in a rule of law with any type of autonomy. Because of the rule of law, he is now owned by the Godfather. Is the Godfather going to call in a favor that is equivalent to the favor that this guy asked? Who knows? The Godfather could say, you know, I helped you out. I would just like a life supply of cheese sandwiches from your deli, right? He doesn't do that, right? The guy's job is what? An undertaker, America Buenos Aires, right? You know, Coppola's a genius. There are very few wasted anything in that movie. The guy's an undertaker, okay? Now, just to put a finish on this, what does the Godfather eventually ask him to do?
Did he ask you to fix Sonny up and shot you? He asked you to fix
Sonny gets shot by whom? By the family. Where? Where does Sonny get shot? At the toll booth. Is there any metaphor there, right? Gets shot in a place, a government type place, and the Godfather takes him back to this guy at the beginning of the movie, comes back to him and says, make Sonny look okay so his mom can see him. Right? The whole system is falling apart for all these people that are existing outside the system. Right? You get into these unethical situations. You're forced to make these deals that have no controls. So you shine a light. You do something that causes the least amount of harm. Right? You do nothing. Hang in there with me. All right, look, I got through my key points, but there's a lot of other points on here about ethics that I'm probably going to pull from for the test. I'll post all the slides. I'll try and come back to this for the review, but I'm telling you right now, you need to know this stuff. What you do when you get faced with an ethical dilemma, what an ethical dilemma is, that type of stuff. That's the key.